Hello everyone, Colin here, and welcome to the premiere episode of Mall Walk here on Corrupted Nostalgia. A series exploring dying malls, stores, and shopping centers and the fascinating history behind them. Today I took a trip to Cincinnati, Ohio's Cincinnati Mall, previously Cincinnati Mills Mall, and before that it was unveiled in 1989 as Forest Fair Village. Its name was due to its placement in the Forest Park area. And boy, what a historic mall to kick things off with.
We are here on the location at the construction site of the Forest Fair Mall. The Forest Fair Mall is currently under construction and is slated to be the second largest regional mall in the state of Ohio at its opening in September of 1988.
Built between the Northgate Mall, which opened in 1972, and the Tri-County Mall, which opened in 1960, the owners of this massive property had to know that it was going to be a very risky move to put another shopping center in the heart of Cincinnati. Yet, they were very confident that Forest Fair Village would be the popular spot for shopping and spending time with family.
When opened, the $200 million project will have 5 major anchors and over 200 stores. On March 1st, the city of Forest Park welcomed America's first supermall, the Forest Fair Mall.
Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case, and that really is unfortunate because this is, in my opinion, the prettiest mall in Cincinnati. Originally costing around $200 million to construct, complete with kids' rides including a Ferris wheel and a carousel, an arcade midway, and plenty of shopping options. After just a few short years of operation, the owner of the mall realized it just wasn't getting the business they predicted, and he started going into a lot of debt. Had to sell the mall, and the same thing happened with the next owners.
B. Altman, Bonwood Teller, and Sakowitz Store's total liquidation going out of business sale at Forest Fair Mall is in its final weeks. Everything in each store is now at or near wholesale. And now, save 40% on everything. Nothing can be held back. Everything must be sold to the bare walls. Don't wait. Save 40% on everything at B. Altman, Bonwood Teller, and Sakowitz going out of business sale before its history. All 3 stores in one location, Forest Fair Mall.
And here we are again today. The owners of the mall are trying to sell it again for just $55 million. That might seem like a lot, but considering how big the property is, it's nothing. You have to think how many millions of dollars they put into this building. It was probably somewhere around $300 million altogether. Maybe even more. I'm not really sure about those numbers, but that's just an estimate. So they've started marketing it for other uses than retail, because they even said that they think retail is a dying cause for this mall, so they're trying to find other candidates to buy it and use it for other things. So far, someone has a bid on it, a production company, I believe, but it doesn't look like they're going to take that. I know, they tried to sell it to Apple at one point, Amazon. Amazon since decided to move down to Hebron instead in Kentucky. So recently they've been trying to pitch it to Cincinnati's new soccer team, FC Cincinnati, to be reused as a stadium, which I have to be honest, that would be a really great idea.
Every time you pass along 275 right here and you see the Cincinnati Mall, I know it as the Forest Fair Mall, you see this place and you wonder what's going to happen to it. That's 1.9 million square feet under the roof. 150 of the 155 stores sit vacant. And recently, they made a pitch to FC Cincinnati.
The pitch was really very simple, that we have a location that's very accessible, that parts of it can be torn down and build a stadium here, and it's accessible to, Dayton, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati.
This mall has a very storied past, but I think the next chapter is about to happen, and I think it is positive.
This once bustling, nearly 2 million square foot mall is now a shell of what it once was. Just a few businesses remain. A Bass Pro Shops, which I've heard is getting ready to pack up and merge with a Cabela's. A Babies R Us, which from what I can see gets the most business besides Bass Pro. Although Toys R Us, they're going under right now, and who knows what kind of cuts they're going to make, so I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't around too much longer. And a Kohl's, right at the end of one of the wings, that I personally haven't seen anyone shopping at, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's also on its way out. Aside from the anchors, there's a consignment shop, a baseball batting cage, a gym, a small children's inflatable park, which was previously a Wonder Park location. Oh yeah, and Arcade Legacy, just about the best little retro arcade in the Cincinnati area. Definitely recommend checking it out. That might sound like quite a few, however, this mall has over 150 slots for stores. Walking around this mall is a very peaceful experience every time I come to visit. There's usually one or two other people in the whole building on any given day, so you really get that empty feeling. Not to mention that a lot of the lighting they keep off, even at night. I'm assuming due to barely being able to keep the doors open. Now, I may not have grown up to see the peak of shopping malls, but I definitely remember visiting this mall in particular as a kid in the early 2000s. And I just remember how many people were there. In fact, I remember eating at this food court when it was full. Now, this mall has never been that busy per se, however, anything's busier than this. It's in trouble. So if you happen to stop by or live in Cincinnati, I definitely recommend taking a walk down the hallways of this mall before it's inevitably gone in the coming years. This mall is what sparked my interest for making videos like this, to document what once was and to share the experience with people like you. Cincinnati Mall is especially cool to see at night on the weekends, when the lights are low and the business is pretty much just reserved to the arcade. It feels like you shouldn't be there. Unfortunately, I don't have any night footage, but I do have some night photography from a previous evening I spent here. But if you'd like to see some night videography, I definitely would go back at night to try to get some video for you guys. Now let's move on to a little bit of a tour here. The main area of this mall is such an extensive and very cool centerpiece to the rest of the mall. They obviously put a lot of work into the remodeling of this area. I don't remember when that was. I believe it was either in the 90s or the early 2000s. The lighting effects are really neat, at night especially. There's something so gloomy about seeing this fountain empty and the area so quiet. You can just imagine how many people have been here over the years. There's also an elevator in this main hub, but it seems like it needs some repairing. When I walked up to it, it had a sign saying, you know, don't press that button. This elevator's broken. I know from a previous time I've been there. I'll see if I can find the footage. I'll put it in if I find it. But when we pressed the button to open the elevator, the doors started squeaking very loud and only got about halfway open before stopping, and then you have to squeeze your way into the elevator, and it didn't feel safe. I'm glad they finally blocked it off. Now this mall is organized into 3 wings, or they call them neighborhoods, A, B, and C. Moving on to the wing with Kohl's at the end, I just have to say that I really, really like these neon lights they have hanging from the ceiling. Just a great touch. Plus there's this hum, this certain sort of hum that comes from these lights. I'm assuming it's because some of them are broken, but just a really, really cool sound. I don't know. There really is a lot to see here, and it does take me back to when I would visit as a young kid. Coming back, I definitely noticed these escalators were in a little trouble. A little disrepair. Now walking through the center piece again, going over to the Bass Pro and Babies R Us wing, or Neighborhood B. I don't have a whole lot to speak about here, other than there isn't much of a reason you'd be walking down this wing anymore. Both of the stores are actually locked from the mall, so you'd have to walk to the main entrances outside. Which, I don't really understand that, but it's up to them. Probably the same thing, just goes behind the stores. I did really like this view at the end of the hallway though, looking up at Bass Pro Shop. Now coming back towards the main area again, there's this small little branch that doesn't really lead to any stores anymore, obviously, but it's dark now. But I noticed it, and it caught my eye, so I walked over there, and I noticed it started to smell like plastic. Usually I wouldn't comment on a smell, but it smelled like overwhelmingly like pool toys or something. Like they have a certain smell to them. I don't know. It really makes me wonder what's over there. Part of me thinks it could be storage for the bounce houses at the inflatable park and stuff like that. I don't know. If you guys have any ideas, just I'd be happy to hear. Now this last leg of the mall is my favorite. It's home to the cafeteria and the arcade. And 2 movie theaters actually that aren't in operation anymore. And actually, if you go upstairs, you'll find a really empty playground. I can't imagine it's the safest, but hey, they haven't walled it off, so it can't be that bad, right? Moving on past the playground, you can see where the Big's grocery store used to be. It's all dry-walled off, just a massive space. I can't imagine what they used it for, or like why they would just wall it off completely. My guess is that they used it for the theater space, for the theater they put in below. But that's just a guess. I really don't see any other reason for it to be dry-walled completely other than, you know, the fact that they couldn't find anyone to fill it anyways. This mall actually had two theaters, a dollar theater on the upper level here, and down below is more of a mainstream theater that they decided to add later on. You can see how recent the movies are on here as well. It leads me to believe that it must have been open until probably a couple of years ago. I mean, but you can see by the selection here, it's not a surprise it went out of business. Now, let's talk about the arcade here. Arcade Legacy is a must-see if you decide to visit. You get unlimited video games for $10 all day, I think, and for $7 an hour if you choose. Just a great place run by great people. Now, this cafeteria is a really neat-looking place. Sure, you can't eat here anymore, but it still looks great. Despite the somewhat crunchy floor. Really don't know what that's about. Just sounds like someone shoved a bunch of Lay's chips underneath the flooring, if you ask me. Now, I did notice a hallway that a sign said led to mall management in the corner of the cafeteria. And my curiosity, it almost killed the cat, so I decided to check it out. I didn't find mall management. I did, however, find a really creepy hallway that led back to the movie theater. Here, I'll let you take a look. Yeah, as you can see, very weird. I mean, it's obvious they don't use that anymore. Overall, if I had to rate this mall completely, it would be about a 10 on the dead factor, a 10 on the style factor, and is definitely on the top of my list of malls in America that I think are worth a trip if you're in the area. Just such a historic spot that I'd hate to see go, even though it seems like it's coming. Now, just a little side note here, if you do decide to visit, I prefer to park in the garage behind the mall just because it's such a strange place, and you'll see for yourself. So yeah, just drive all the way to the back of the mall and you'll find it. But you really have to see it for yourself. There's this constant hum from the lights. It's really eerie and quiet. Not to mention entry 3 is one of the coolest ones in this mall. I mean, just look at this hallway. Fake plants. It's great. Now, driving away, it's not too hard to see that this place isn't doing so great, but I do sincerely wish it well. This video wasn't about making fun of the situation the mall's in, no. It's more so an encouragement to go visit your local dead mall, and maybe even this one, and relive those moments you spent as a kid at the mall. I don't know, soak in the nostalgia. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I thank you a lot for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe and hit like if you did, because this won't be the last you see of me. Links to the photo shoot I took at this mall can be found down below as well. Until next time.